Greetings comrades, Soviet Gaming here. Today we're taking a look at the Mauler Engravings and we have a guest today, again, InSeas0n with AFK Analytica is with us to talk about those engravings. Welcome, mate.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back. I'm happy I didn't scare you off. But pretty exciting about these new engravings, dude. Let's get it.
Alright, so we will go over all the heroes again, but this time we'll try to do it shorter. We won't kind of talk too much about the heroes that are not that important. So yeah, let's get into it. Our first hero will be Brutus, so our tanky guy, and for him we have E30 that will give him additional attack rating increase and haste increase. And on E60 it will be the last grasp, which will give us additional energy. We talked about it a little bit already, but I thought that this is not that important because usually when the Brutus is in the last grasp, he will get enough energy to do that ultimate anyway. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so you already saw it right off the bat that we're going to keep this shorter. But we did start with kind of an interesting ability here. And the truth is that for most players and for PvE and like pushers, this is probably not going to be a high priority ability, but I do think it is kind of interesting. Like once he activates Last Grasp, he'll get 800 energy points. Now maximum is 1,000, so he basically is gonna ultimate right when he hits Last Grasp. And you hit Last Grasp, essentially like if you're going to die, if I understand correctly. So what that means is in most cases, or the way that you could set this up is if you did something like a 5-pull and you clumped up all of the heroes and then Brutus hit Last Grasp and then instantly ults and AoEs down all the heroes. Now, generally speaking, Brutus isn't going to do enough damage for it to be meaningful, but it's still a possibility. It's still something that could be possible. So, you know, not likely that we're going to see this in PvE, but it is an interesting ability. Whales are going to love to get this as a utility item, and it's possible we'll even see it in PvP, but yeah. Of the abilities in Mauler, I think this is one of the interesting ones. Not a lot of, like, it's deceptive, not a ton of value, but interesting nonetheless, I think.
That's interesting to hear, but I think most people won't really invest that much into the Brutus anyway, so...
Totally agree. Well, yeah, totally agree.
Well, let's move on. Next one is Mr. Cassus. Yeah, he lost his value for a while already. And the abilities are E30 damage increase on the throwing axe, minor damage increase by the way. E60 is life leech bonus. I kinda like the life leech bonus. If it would be E30 ability, that would be good, but I think it doesn't worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, when I saw this, I really thought it was terrible. I thought it was complete garbage. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say other than I don't think it'll be high priority.
Let's go to the next one then. Warwick. I personally like Warwick because it was my first ascended tier hero that I summoned, so he was the first one, and then he was reworked, and I still use him to this day. But I think the abilities aren't that crazy. This one will increase the poison damage by 10% of his attack rating, and the second one will give additional traps on the battlefield. The one will be in the center and one behind himself after 20 seconds of the battle. This is interesting, but his damage seems to be lacking. Do you think it's worth to go for him?
Okay, I definitely don't think so, especially after these engravings. I think that the first E30 looks, you know, pretty bad, but most of the E30s don't look that great. And his E60 looks interesting, but not very impactful. I don't think that this is going to be like a game changer for anything. Events, PvP, PvE, anywhere. But I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Alright, let's move on to the next one. Numisu, our only support character from the Maulers. For E30, we have the mock duration extended to 3 seconds. This is when the enemies attack the totem with the normal attacks. For E60, we have the haste increase to 60%, to 60, and normal attack speed increase to 40%. So basically, he will get additional 10 haste and 10 normal attack speed increase. What do you think of this guy? I mean, that's the only support that we have.
Yeah, so I think this E60 is amazing. And it's E60s are a pretty tough sell for most players. especially free to play and even like medium spenders, you really, want to be conservative with the amount of E60s you get, because you won't be able to get that much. But that ability is really, really good, and it's really important at deficit because it will boost the maximum DPS that your carries will do. So it's unfortunate that it's an E60 benchmark. I don't think that many people will get it, but it's one to look out for. I think at E60 it's a tough sell, even though it's so good. So his minor and major glyphs, I don't think we should go into them for time constraint, but they're not that great either. He doesn't get very much haste. He doesn't get very many stats from these stars, crit damage resistance, and not a great stat.
Exactly. Alright, let's go to the next one. We have Scrag over here. After rework, he's pretty useful, but I'm not sure that the abilities match with him that well. E30 ability: when the enemies are within striking range of Scrag and dealing damage to him, they will lose 8 haste, 0.43 seconds, and that can be stacked up to 3 times, so that means, 20 something, 24 haste decrease. And passive will allow to trigger Stampede every 6 seconds instead of 8 seconds. So I don't know, I haven't really used him that much. I really want to hear your opinion on him. Does it worth it to go with him?
So this one actually stuck out to me, and this is what I think is interesting and why this might be, a medium or lower priority, but at least on the board. Basically, I think the E30 ability here is pretty solid. It decreases haste for enemies by 8, and it can stack up to 8 3 times. It's basically, it kind of transforms Scrag's ability there, and it's only at E30. So I think that it's possible that players, even pushing deficit, will potentially go for this E30, depending on how many E30s we're able to get. If we're able to get, a lot more E30s, this one will definitely be one that people look to get for Maulers. But the E60 is a lot more lackluster, and I think that investing in engravings for utility tanks like Scrag is generally not a great idea, so you wouldn't want to go farther than E30. So this is something that I think is low priority, but it's something that I think people will look to get.
Alright, thanks. Let's move on to Warwick, the guy who is mostly used at the boss fights. He's extricate, I don't know how it's pronounced, you will help me with that. Ability. Extricate. Alright, the cooldown is reduced to 4 seconds from 5 seconds, so it's -1 cooldown, more shield on Warwick, and the Carnal Rage passive will give a damage buff from 4 to 5%. So, I think the abilities are pretty good. The problem that the Warwick is himself lackluster. He's not being used that much.
Yeah, so when I read these abilities on Warwick, I basically laughed out loud because I was kind of shocked that they were so bad. It's basically the bare minimum you can give him, and I'm almost a little bit perplexed why Lilith did this. I think it's because they don't want his position in the meta or the way he's used and played to change whatsoever. I don't think anyone besides like Whales using him for events or Twisted Realm will get his engravings. But basically, like, this is the lowest priority for a free-to-play or like even medium spender, unless you're just fanatical about events. Like, absolutely fanatical. Yeah. Sad.
Next one is Entendra. Now, this one might be interesting, but damn, still not. E30 will give the damage boost by 20%, so it's like, seriously, that's not serious upgrade. And knockdown, and now Entendra recovers an additional 4% of your max health for every enemy she strikes that is marked with the mark of wild. If an enemy is unmarked, they will be marked by this ability. Personally, I don't think it's worth it as well, because E60 is like too far away, E30 is just useless. So yeah, what do you think?
So okay. Entendre is coming into the meta for events, and she kind of was primed and in position to be like the second carry for Maulers. But I think for most players, this will be kind of a tough sell. Although it is pretty decent. It's one to look after. I think the E60 is very good for events, and it's a very good ability for her PvE usage and say like Mauler Tower. Her minor glyphs are good. The stats would be useful on her, but she is a might hero, which is not super favorable. So, this looks promising, but likely low priority, likely gonna have a low impact for free-to-play or, Dolphin-type players.
Yeah, obviously free-to-play players want to spend their engraving materials most efficiently because you need a lot of those. And yeah, they won't go this way. Alright, the next one is Sepia. E30 ability will give damage increase to 100 per second for the static field, which is like the ability that she casts on the most forward ally, and E60 will give spectral disruption when it breaks. When it disappears, all enemies in the circle will be dealt 200% damage and be stunned for 1.5 seconds. So this seems like a defensive ability, which would be nice if it would be there from the start, but spending E60 for that, seriously, I don't think that she works in that thing as well. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Like, Sepia just keeps getting worse and worse upgrade mechanics. I won't even talk about the E30, it's terrible. The E60 is actually really cool, except for the fact that when Sepia gets 3/9 furniture, it increases the duration of spectral disruption. So what you have is upgrade mechanics canceling each other out and kind of nerfing each other. This ability would be cool if it wasn't for that furniture nerf. I think that it's possible that Lilith might even straight up rework this ability. It kind of looks like they jumped the gun a little bit with how it's created. So anyway, both of these look bad. It's almost comical.
Alright, now we have Cetrana. She doesn't have that much love, but I love her a lot. She saved me a few times in the fights. And for E30 she have the fire seeds that will have 0.5% damage increase of the enemy max health every second, which I think is okay for E30. And E60 will give energy recovery of the burning enemies reduced by 20%, so the enemies will be able to recover less energy when they are under the fire. Honestly, I think that E30 might be a good one if you use her, but what do you think?
So I think the E60 ability is actually pretty good. Cetrana isn't doing super hot in the meta for anything. Not PvE, not really PvP, not really events. I think that this overflow energy recovery reduction is actually really interesting for the future. And there might be some like compositions that utilize this like very well, but it's unlikely that we'll see this anytime soon, and I don't think it will be a high priority for most players. Alright,
let's move on to Tidus. His E30 will allow him to get increased movement speed and attack speed that will last for 13 seconds instead of 10 seconds here, so it's a small buff, not that serious if you ask me. And E60, here the passive, when the enemy that Tidus is persistently attacking dies, Tidus recovers 40% of health he already lost, and his haste is increased by 30 points for 6 seconds. So this is adding this ability a new layer, and it will be good, but then again, E60 investment, seriously, most players won't be able to get there, and they would have different options.
Yeah, so I think that both of these abilities are decent. I'm not super excited about the crit. I would have liked to see something better like haste or, I don't know, crit amp or whatever. The only thing is that Tidus at high deficit is kind of like falling out of the meta. And I don't think that this is quite enough to save him, but it looks kind of promising. It doesn't mean he's completely out of the meta yet, this is one to look for down the road, but not a high priority. Doesn't look super hot to me.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Dress, everyone's favorite for Abyssal Expedition. What do we have? Level 4. Dres recovers 120 energy points while he is away from the battlefield. So this one, I felt that this one is really interesting because it gives him additional options for the ultimate. So pretty nice. E60, when Dres ultimate Deadly Ambush deals damage to the enemy he's pursuing, Dres attack rating shall be increased by 3% for 5 seconds, and it can stack up to 10 times. So that's up to 30% additional attack rating. What do you think of that? I think that that's actually pretty decent, but depends on how often do you use that hero.
Yeah, so I think for like PvE, deficit, and progression, I don't think that this is quite enough to be a game changer for him. But what I will say is the amount of life leech that Dres is starting to, pile up or acquire is getting pretty massive. So unless that life leech is enough to completely, revitalize this hero, he's probably going to be dedicated more to an event hero, and he is a very strong event hero. So whales and event players and Twisted Realm, Abyssal Expedition, this is a great one to acquire for that specific event. Maybe not the highest priority for that event, but it will be a priority if someone is very competitive. Other than that, though, it's kind of forgettable, these abilities and stats for most players. Alright,
let's move on to Skryat, our bird guy. So for the Sandstorm, E30 will allow him to increase the loss of accuracy points and the haste points on the enemy from 100 to 120 and haste from 25 to 35, which I think is pretty good. This is so far the best E30 ability that we've seen. And for E60, critical insight, when the maximum number of crit rating points is reached, Skryat attack rating will be increased by 10% points. 10% points. So yeah, this one, if it would be for allies, that would be good, but overall, man, why?
Yeah, super well said. I think the E30 is good. Now the only problem is that deficit, and for cutting edge players, Skryat doesn't survive very long. So unfortunately, if he did survive longer, this would be huge, pretty high priority. And honestly, for most players, this might be kind of a medium priority, maybe for just E30. But this E60 is super deceptively not good. Skryat's majority of, this is kind of complicated. This has potential to be decent, but he just doesn't live long enough. Most of his damage comes from the 2% damage over time, per second from his plus 30, but actually a lot of damage comes from the AoE rocks, and this would buff that, which is okay, but realistically, this isn't gonna be a high priority or massive for most players. It does look promising though, and Skryat is a good hero in the meta.
But he's mostly using 5 pulls, if I understand, to pull the enemy scene and dive, so...
He's really fascinating because his 9/9 furniture decreases movement speed, and it's one of the only ones that does that. He's just a really good hero in general, so it's kind of hard to speculate on it. I don't think that his E60 is going to be that great. I think his E30 has potential, but realistically, I think that there are better E30s to go for. So who knows where this will fall? Maybe this will even become a medium priority thing. I'm not positive.
All right, let's move on to the next one. And Nokia the Tank. Born to Lead, E30 will give allied melee heroes have the tenacity increased by 15 points while within the range, so that's just a lower chance of getting debuffs. And E60 shield duration increased to 7 seconds from 5 seconds. That's 30% of his max health, so most likely the shield will be down by that time, so I think that's no, right?
So yeah, so when I first saw this, I was like, wow, both of these are kind of terrible. And I think that I was kind of right about the E60. I don't think anyone will really want to go for the E60, generally speaking. Now, what I will say about the E30, there is potential here for this to be a priority for deficit pushers and players. Now, I'll tell you why for PvE.
All right.
And this is kind of deceptive.
Always prepared.
Okay, so, in PvE, in tenacity and insight, the way that this works, or the way that it works in PvE is that all monsters or enemies have essentially 0 insight, to my understanding, more or less. That means that, and the way that tenacity works is it's based off of the difference between your tenacity and their insight, okay? And it's a 2%. So basically what this means is that this is a 30% chance to resist control abilities, just like for all melee heroes in the formation. That's kind of significant. That's pretty useful. Like on top of other things that Inoki does and how he works within the meta. So I actually think that this is a great E30, and it's one for deficit players to look at and consider. And I think more people will start getting Inoki as a result of this E30. I really do. I think it's really interesting. Yeah, definitely one to look at, one to look for. I think advanced players will get a lot of usage out of it, I think, but not positive.
That's an interesting thought, actually. I thought that 15 points isn't that much, but after your explanation, it makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked myself. I kind of did a double take.
So let's move on to Kren. Everybody's waiting for this, I think. E30. Each time a landmine explodes, Kren will recover 100 energy points, so not that bad. E60. While Kren is using this ability, Concussive Blast, any damage received from enemies, excluding his target, is reduced by 50%, so while he's running to use the lady and all that stuff. E60 seems to be not that important because, I mean, I don't know, maybe in the high deficit. But E30 seems like a good option, specifically if you use him in the formation where enemies actually land on the mines. So, what do you think?
Okay, so this is the main event of Mauler Engravings, right? all the deficit pushers have been, looking at each faction and trying to assess, which hero they want to put their engravings on, because it's really important because we have so limited. Okay, and Kren is kind of the guy that everyone was expecting. And Christmas came early. I think we got exactly, what we're looking for. Now, this E30 is deceptively very, very good, I think. I wish I knew off the top of my head, but this should be really important for Kren because he has issues with energy regen already, or that's one of his main issues at deficit and PvE in general. This should be helpful. Secondly, the E60, it's hard to say right now how valuable this will be. I actually think it will be pretty useful because Kren often dies in during this ability. Basically, he'll jump across the map, and in transit he'll get fucking hit by slime, excuse me, and be taken out of the fight. So I think that this is an okay ability, but okay. Now this is probably the most important thing that I'll say in this video. Okay, the way that players should be thinking about this, PvE players, deficit pushers, and otherwise, should be for faction heroes. They should be thinking this. Okay, you want to put your engravings on your carries. Okay, and you want to look for your first priority carry in each faction, and you want to look for your second priority carry in each faction. And that's because of a few reasons, but mostly because of towers. That way you have a main carry for 2 stages and a multi-stage for towers. And some players might think, oh, okay, well, I'll never get to multi-stage faction tower. Well, the way that the game is updating and the increases in progression speed, I think that a lot more players will start getting into multi-stage towers. And the farther you go in chapters, the less value you get from progressing in campaign. So tower becomes way more important. So anyway, that's just one way that I think most players should think about investing. Anyway, Kren, with these abilities, so why do you want to put engravings on your carries? Well, the name of the game for engravings is plus stats. We get an absurd amount of plus stats and special stats from engravings. Now, carries are the most important heroes to put stats on because that's way more leverageable in deficit and in PvP. Those plus stats are almost essentially wasted on classes like Sustenance, unfortunately Might right now, or maybe less so, but not as much for Celerity and Sorcery, and they're kind of wasted on Sustenance, depending on what you get. You basically only want haste on Sustenance heroes. So when you put engravings on a Sustenance hero or a support hero or whatever, those plus stats are essentially getting wasted, right? But if you're putting plus stats on a carry like Kren, those plus stats are not getting wasted. You're going directly to your main goals and desires as a player, generally speaking. So, even if this E60 doesn't look that great, it looks okay, and you get physical pierce. The minor glyphs look okay for Kren. They're not amazing, but they're not bad either. They're pretty decent. There's a minor glyph for haste, and there's a minor glyph for physical pierce. This is I think as a benchmark for players, E41. You want to go up to E30. You want to get 5 levels on the attack percent glyph. You want to get 3 levels on the physical pierce glyph and 3 levels on the haste glyph. And that will give you the bulk of the value in terms of investing in engravings. That would be like my recommendation for your first priority carry for Maulers. And this looks pretty great for Kren. That's my spiel. I've said my piece.
All right, that was extensive, a lot of information. I hope people will get used to it and use it properly, because that's important. And that's actually...
I've been trying to save my details for Kren, and I just needed to go off about it because I think this is sort of the most important point of engravings. I think people get the wrong idea of engravings, and it's kind of important to frame it. Yeah.
You're totally right. Other than the additional skills, you get a lot of stats, and if those go for your healers or something, they don't use attack to do damage, and if your carry isn't strong enough, you won't be able to beat the enemy. That's why you are totally correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Spending points on the carry who use everything. Haste, damage amplification, crit amplification, everything. All the stats are useful for them. So that's why they are mostly efficient for them. I hope that sum up will help. Alright. Yeah. Let's move on to Tally. Now, when I took a look at this one first, I was surprised. For me right now, personal opinion, this one is the best. E30 Fireball 3 has 100% chance to do a critical strike to the target and also deals additional damage to that is equal to 10% of the health Tally has already lost in the battle. That's already quite a lot. Bonus for E30 and E60. 10 seconds after casting Pyromancy, the proportion of the current health is ignored and Tally will always be at her powerful state, which is amazing because if you use healer in your team composition and she will go up in health, you will lower her damage, but with this, it's not the case and it's only 10 seconds into the battle. I need your opinion on this, am I right? Is she good? E60? E30?
Yeah. So Thalia has been kind of disappointing after her release. She had a bunch of abilities. She has great immunity, and her damage output seemed really promising. But people still haven't not enough people have invested or tested her out quite yet. We're not quite sure about her yet. We still haven't discovered her potential. These engravings look absurdly good. These look like game-changing level abilities for both. And I could go super in-depth, but the general idea is that it basically allows her to reach her full capacity 10 seconds into the fight and for the rest of the fight. Okay, that's a low bar to scale her up to maximum value. Yep. Okay. So the main thing here is that Thalia is a hero that works around immunity, and for deficit pushing, Deficit pushing, the name of the game is immunity and damage.
Mhm.
Thali is about immunity and damage, and both of these engravings do that. So if I was going to pick a second priority Mauler, I don't know, even first priority Mauler, you know, maybe in the future, Thali would be the one I'd pick now. You know, it's a bit of a gamble because we don't, like, she's still new, we don't know everything about her, but I think in the future, this is going to be a household name, a staple Mauler hero. Calling it now first. This is going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, and about her secondary stats, she doesn't have that many good ones, so there is some haste, but it's like a little bit of attack if you ask me, so...
Well, okay, so this is what I'll say. I'll say that I think that it's above average. These aren't bad stats. I think every minor glyph is at least decent. It could be better. There could be more haste glyphs. There could be more, like, pierce glyphs, or crit amplification, but, you know, they're not bad in the scheme of things. Physical resist, as the star bonus, not as great, you know, but not a horrible stat either. So, I don't know, you know, this made me excited about Thali, you know? This is, interesting. This is one to get excited about, I think.
You know what I think? I think the stats aren't that good, because if they would be good, she would be OP after that. Because those bonuses that they get...
It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the way Lilith balances the hero out. Like, we give her good skills, but we won't give her OP stats, otherwise she will be just tearing down everyone. So, I think. Alright, let's move on to the Granite. The newly born tank, which is mostly used, well, I mean... You have two uses for him, as far as I understand. The first one is 5 pull to stun everyone out and increase the damage output. The second one as a tank for the Maulers. And all the engraving bonuses over here are, in my opinion, good for the tank role. Because E30 will give him more value as shield, and that's 40% additional shield of Granny's attack rating, which is not that much. And E60 will increase, well, lower the reset time of the shield from 12 seconds to up to 8 seconds, so it kinda goes down as his health falls and so on. So both engraving bonuses are good for his tanking, but overall I don't think that that's good enough.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that these are bad, but I don't think that these are good. And admittedly, like, Granite is the hero probably that I know least about right now. I see him now being a utility type hero.
Yeah.
You know, he will be a hero that people build, but I don't think that these are high priority engravings, like, whatsoever. I don't think that these are engravings that people will be excited about. I don't think that people will think about them very much. Although he will be a hero that people use, you know, just not a high priority engraving target.
Yeah, because right now he can be used at Mythic when he unlocks the signature item, and then just use the Sand Vortex die and stun all the enemies. So basically you don't need his defensive abilities for that.
Super well said, yeah. That's exactly spot on for our understanding of him right now, for sure.
Alright, so that's the last Mauler hero. Who... Yeah, the standard question. 3 top heroes that you would go for. I already know who those are, but... Voice
or this is kind of a complicated question a little bit, because... Because you kind of have a split of, like, E30s and E60s, and you kind of want to have a balance. But I'll say for sure, Kren is one that people are going to look at, and I think that E41 benchmark is really, really solid for him. Like, that's almost a guarantee grab for Mauler. I think the Thali, E30 and E60, you know, those are really exciting, really fascinating. I think in the future, people are going to be looking at those are 2 heroes. And then I don't really know if I could pick a third. I think that Numisu's E60 looks good. I'm kind of interested in Screg's E30 and Skryrath's E30. Yeah, but I think that these Mauler engravings have been pretty exciting. I hope that the Graveborn ones are equally as exciting.
Oh man, can't wait.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, Maulers are pretty good right now. I mean, back in the day they were pretty unused faction and pretty weak, but right now they are getting their place over here with engravings, with Tele, with Kren and everything. Let's try.
Yeah, I think that these engravings are sort of kind of how I wanted all of the engravings to feel and look like. So, like, I don't think that they're amazing, but I don't think that they're like bad either. And you know, there are a few of these that are exciting and change the hero. So, yeah, I think that this is great. I think Lilith did a good job on these.
Alright, man. So, yeah, thank you very much for coming over. I hope the viewers would like to see more of that. If you guys want to see more of that, let me know in the comments. And what about AFK Analytica website? Are you working on that right now?
Yeah,
Say
so
a little bit about that. Time for a plug.
So I've been working on 2 big projects, actually for like an absurd amount of time. This bounty board guide that I have coming out, and I'm turning my wishlist guide into a reference guide, and hopefully those will be out within, or you know, the reference guide will be out within the week. Soviet hopefully will make a video on it.
Hopefully.
And after those 2, I plan to put a lot more time into my website, so stay tuned for that. Right now there's just a lot of resources and just, you know, data sheets and stuff like that. If you're interested in that, it's great for that. So please check out AFK Analytica. But I wanted to say thanks for having me on.
Sure.
I've been having a great time being on the channel. Your videos recently have been top notch. Very good stuff. And I'm excited for the future, dude. I'm happy you got back into the game.
Thanks a lot. And alright guys, once again, write in the comments what you think about that. We will have the link for AFK Analytica in the description as well. Moreover, there are more playlists over there, the Discord link, and more useful stuff for you. So join the Discord, we can discuss everything over there. And subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any new videos, including the videos with InSeas0n. That's about it for now, guys. Thank you for watching. Soviet out. До свидания.